How did you find out you were getting cheated on? My daughter told me. My neighbor told me that there was an odd car parked in my driveway when the ex was supposed to be at work. He gave me his phone to hold while he was having a minor medical procedure, and while in the waiting room, a text came through. It said something like, "Ha, so we can do the deed again." And I was totally confused, so I scrolled up through the text thread and read, "I am sorry if you feel guilty," and "No, I only feel guilty if I still loved her." And that was the end of that relationship. A man knocked on my door and introduced himself as the husband of a woman that my husband worked with. He was there to tell me that his wife was having an affair with my husband. My husband never came home after that. He got an Airbnb and told me to get a lawyer. We had been together for 24 years. Phone bill. She was texting some random number 600 times a month. I thought I recognized the number, and when I put it in my phone, it was a buddy of mine. When I saw her reflected in his sunglasses in a picture that he texted me. When she left me 'cause she got pregnant, and thought it was a different guy's. Turns out I was one of 3 possible dads, couple years later, and a few paternity tests, and turns out it was mine. He pocket dialed me while bragging about it to a coworker. The universe really had my back on that one. I had to work a night shift on my birthday. When I got home the next day and he came to see me, he was covered in hickeys. The girl messaged me from an anonymous IG account letting me know it happened while I was out of town. Maybe I wouldn't have believed it if she didn't provide specific details, like the type of car I drove, that I had let the carless cheater drive while I was gone. Old school. Her little sister ratted her out. I just asked. The idiot saved her number as, "My little hoe less than 3. He told me directly. That his family members found out about it, and I guess he thought he better told me since it was out in the open. Had to cancel our plans as some important work stuff came up. Ended up wrapping up earlier than expected. Decided to drive to her place to surprise her. I was the one who was surprised when I noticed someone else's car in her driveway. Literally and figuratively. My ex came to pick up his stuff from my house. The girl he cheated on me with drove him to my house. And we met. The high schooler he was paying for sex left her underwear in my apartment. She was sleeping with her boss, in the most cliched excuses. I really think if she'd said to me the passion and love was gone, we could have divorced amicably, because I was miserable too. But when she cleaned out our house and bank account, well, that changed the dynamic just a smidge. Fuck you, Michelle. My ex started a job in my hometown, pretty far from where we lived. She was going to dinner and snuggling her work boyfriend in a restaurant where a couple people I went to high school with would spend time. So of course one of them saw her and told me. She wasn't very bright. Checked my significant other's phone. Had Domino's in his contacts list. Thought it was weird that he had Domino's number saved and called the number. It was his ex. Done. My Nest Cam picked up my dog barking when my soon-to-be ex-wife got home from dropping me off at the airport at 4 a.m. Turns out the guy was on his way to my house while she was dropping me off. She messaged me naked pictures of him in our shower. He tried to play it off like it was an old pic, but it was clearly my shower with my stuff in it. Some people have a ton of audacity and zero shame. Chlamydia. He stopped smiling at me. Stopped kissing me goodnight. Stopped holding my hand. He became very short and impatient with me. Mean. Didn't seem to want me around. Spent lots of time in his office. Was on his phone a lot and would get messages and be smiling. Then he asked me for a divorce. I decided to snoop. I opened his laptop and saw all the evidence. It destroyed me. She told me when I proposed. At least she didn't let me get married to her. He asked me to go unlock his car since he's locked his keys inside. Friend he told me he was with was nowhere to be found. Checked his phone and found the messages. He wouldn't admit to actually sleeping with her until 2 years later. Then asked for an open relationship and got upset when I got more dates than him. We've since split, thankfully. She told me one night, after being together for over a year at this point, that she has cheated on every boyfriend she's ever had. I should have paid more attention to the red flags while we were dating, but I was so in love. Lesson learned. Never again. His 10-year-old kid, whom I was around for 6.5 years, told his mom because he knew about it but didn't want me to be mad at him. I was good friends with his mom, so she immediately told me. He started getting antsy about leaving his phone in my presence. So I logged into his Facebook on the shared iPad and saw in his messages. I called him out on my suspicion the next morning. He denied it. I logged into his messenger and saw him admitting that I caught them and they planning on meeting up to talk about it. 6 months into a long-distance relationship, hour-and-a-half drive, he told me not come up for Valentine's Day. It's so overdone. Let's find a different day and make it out own. Found out I was the other guy. She told me, along with how much better he was than me in every conceivable way, while she was dumping me for him. His little side piece followed me and tried to run me off the road to confront him while he was with me. It was something. Would also like to add that I was actively miscarrying, so that made the moment all that more magical. My son ended up in the hospital with pneumonia when he was just 6 weeks old. They couldn't find out what was wrong with him, and he ended up in the ICU. Turns out it was bacterial pneumonia. Because his dad had cheated on me throughout my pregnancy and gave me chlamydia, which then went into our son's lungs when I gave birth. I found them in my bed. To this day I believe it was all planned. But don't know why. I can't believe that someone is such stupid when she knows I go home.